Hello everyone, Daniel Kerr here. You cannot wake up from a coma and then run a marathon. I want to talk about how some people, they want to give up before they even get started. And the reason why is because they have their sights set on a goal that is too lofty for their current situation. I've noticed this in business. I've noticed this in finance. I've noticed this in sports or fitness. I've noticed this when battling disease or when trying to make transition from one area of life into another. Pretty much every aspect of life. Human beings tend to set goals that are so big that they're overwhelming. There is nothing wrong with having a big dream. In fact, I think everyone should have one. If you're watching this, I think you should have a big dream. I don't think your big dream should be your very first objective. I think that it should be basically a compass point, right? Where you kind of keep the dream in the distance and you're pushing toward that dream, but you break it into small, actionable steps. In my 10K platform, I obviously want to get people to $10,000 a month in online income. But if you've never made any money online, getting to $10,000 a month is it's kind of significant, right? So if you go to 10kplatform.com, you get on the email list, you get your blueprint to your first $1,000. It's a lot more achievable. It's a lot easier for someone to set their sights on that goal. But even that goal, if it's too lofty, you can break it into smaller goals. You're still pushing in the same direction, but to be honest, your first $10, your first $25, your first even $1 that you make is actually going to be, it's going to feel like a win, a significant situation, or a significant event, right? So your lofty goal, it tells you the direction that you're going to be traveling in. It's not necessarily the thing that you're trying to achieve in 1 month or 1 week. I think that the best question at that point is, what is the smallest incremental step that I can take that will put me in that direction? If I woke up this morning, I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico, United States, and I wanted to walk to New York City. I could do that, but it would take months. It is thousands and thousands of miles or thousands of kilometers away. But if I woke up and I went outside with my phone and I decided exactly what direction New York City was in, and I said, can I walk 3 miles today? Yes, of course I can walk 3 miles today. I'm able-bodied. You walk 3 miles for the day. And then at the end, you're like, oh, that was easy. And you celebrate your win. And then the next day you walk 3 more miles. Eventually you will get to New York City. What begins to happen though is as you make these small accomplishments and you are moving in the direction that you want to move in, your dreams or the threshold that you are setting for yourself tends to expand and get bigger and bigger. You're practicing accomplishing things. You're like, oh, today I'm going to go 5 miles. Well, most people can go 5 miles. Let's say, you start off a lot bigger, but it doesn't matter. Eventually, you could be walking 20 or 30 miles a day. You have practiced being the type of person that accomplishes the things that they set out to do. So your first goal is not $1 million company. Your first goal isn't $10,000 a month online. Your first goal is your first YouTube video or your first product or maybe even just registering a domain name, or you're going to set up your Shopify account, right? These are small goals that you can get. And each one of these small things moves you toward the destination, right? Towards the big goal. Here's the important part. You want to make sure, I mentioned that after walking 5 miles or 3 miles that you were going to celebrate. You definitely want to have a celebration when you accomplish things. Even if it's a ritual celebration, you have 1 cookie that you leave in the cupboard and you just eat the cookie. You savor it. You take time. You're not throwing a massive party. You're just basically setting a tiny goal that you absolutely cannot miss, so that when you accomplish it, you are having a small celebration internally in your heart and in your mind, and it reprograms your cells, it reprograms your mind into that feeling, right? You want to become addicted to that feeling of accomplishing small things. And as you accomplish bigger and bigger goals, it'll be easier and easier for you to set loftier and loftier thresholds, and you'll be able to meet them. It's really, really powerful to reprogram yourself into the type of person that accomplishes tasks, that finishes things once they start them. I grew up in a household where my parents, they did things according to a standard. What was interesting is my mom grew up in a family where everyone worked a trade, mostly HVAC, right? And then they did a lot of sheet metal. My grandfather was very, very brilliant. My grandma was very, very brilliant. The uncles on that side, they did sheet metal too. Everybody was very, very good at maths, and that's kind of what they did. They had a nice quad level home. They had some acreage in Flushing, Michigan, which was a very nice, I'd say middle class place to live. On my dad's side, everyone worked at the shop at General Motors, and it provided a pretty decent wage. At the time, my grandfather was also a police officer. And so they also had, a bit of comfort. The idea was that you go to college or whatever, and you end up getting into a trade, and you work really, really hard, and you amass a lot of stuff through your hard work and your bootstraps and all that jazz. And my dad, he wanted to be a pastor of a church. He also worked multiple full-time jobs, and he basically went against his parents' system. And the results were that we kind of grew up poorer than both the grandparents on both sides. Now, when we were kids, we were loved. My father worked really, really hard, and we never lacked for anything. We did not know that we were poor. It wasn't until we were teens that we even felt any type of an effect. And when I say poor, we weren't really that poor. The United States is a place, especially during that time, where there just wasn't any poverty. That's another discussion. I will definitely get flamed for saying that. Nonetheless, when I was forced into the business world, and I was forced through debt and garnishment of wages with small children at the house, I had to take care of a family. There was no way to do it. Every time I got a job, my wages would be garnished. And I was forced to learn how to do business. It was like waking up from a coma, all right? I basically woke up from a financial coma, and suddenly these lofty goals, it was kind of like waking up from a coma and then running a marathon. You cannot do it. When you wake up from a coma, you take small steps toward your goal, and eventually you pick up momentum, you pick up strength, you pick up experience, and you're able to set bigger and bigger goals, and eventually you end up finishing the marathon. Go to 10kplatform.com, sign up for the email list. Once you're on the list, in your email, you will get a 30-minute video explaining all the steps in my 8-page guide, which will be available for download. It is your $1,000 online blueprint. It will help you get from $0 to $1,000 in the fastest amount of time possible for the least amount of money. Love you guys. Be blessed.